Coming back here on Sports Talk Chicago, Joey Christopoulos here. Follow me at Joey Sports Guy. Follow us at Sports Talk Shy wherever you get your socials. And thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. Or whether you're listening to us wherever you get your podcast, make sure you throw some 5 stars on that. We would greatly appreciate it. Shout out to our radio affiliates, our producer John Meadows, and our main guy John Zaglul. Keep getting well, my friend, and thank you for letting me sub in. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the Chicago Cubs. We're going to hand out some first half grades for this team that is sitting at 47-51, under 500. Did a good push in the last week before the first half ended. Went 5-2 against the Orioles and the St. Louis Cardinals. You know, you're 4 games under 500, but in a bunched, parity-ridden National League right now, and with 3 wild card spots, Chicago Cubs, they are right in it. So before we get into the actual players, I want to just look back and see, where was this team last year at this time? Now, the Chicago Cubs last year finished 1 game out of the wild card, didn't make it, fell apart in September. And this was right around that time of the year when the Chicago Cubs really turned it around and turned it on. How do I know this? Because through 98 games last year, and the Chicago Cubs at this point in 2024 have played 98 games. Through 98 games in 2023, the Chicago Cubs had a record of, you guessed it, 47-51. The exact same record through 98 games. Now, to be very fair, the first half ended on, I believe, July 12th of last year. It's coming a little bit later this year, 1 week later. So the first half numbers are a little bit off by just a couple of games, so bear with me if you will. So how did this happen? 47-51, the exact same record. How did the Chicago Cubs get into the race? Well, starting after that 98th game, the Chicago Cubs went 25-11. They got white hot, ladies and gentlemen. We all remember it. And at one point in the year, they were 72-62. And look, that's what it's going to take at this point for the Chicago Cubs to get any sort of noise going. If you want to get to 87 wins, I mean, man, you're going to have to play 600-plus baseball just to get there. Now, can they get to that 84, 85 number? Sure, but a lot of things have to go right. And by going 25-11, winning 25 of 36 games in the second half to start their second half of the season, I mean, that's one way to do it. That's for sure. So what's different from this year and last year? I mean, there's some obvious ones, right? I mean, if you look back to last year, Justin Steele was one of the best pitchers in the NL. He still is. He just doesn't have the wins to prove it. He won 16 games last year. He's sitting on 2 right now. That needs to change in the second half. But look, I'm trying to be a little optimistic here, and I've got some numbers that might support that optimism. 47-51, the exact same record as last year. Well, what did we have last year? We actually had great defense last year. The bullpen was not nearly as bad as it was this year as last year's group. They had Albert Alzolay, but in the closer spot, he started taking off right around this time. They had Cody Bellinger playing well, and to that point, they hadn't really turned it on offensively. If you take a look at it, Chicago Cubs in 2023 through 98 games as a team right now, here's what they're slashing. They're hitting .235, on-base percentage .313, slugging percentage .382 with an OPS of .695. Honestly, those are just terrible numbers as a team. And to think they were in the 220s a couple of weeks ago. I was doing shows when they were in the 220s as a team. They've gotten all the way up to 235. In the first half of last year, with the exact same number, they were hitting 246, 325 with a 396 slugging percentage for a 721 OPS. Now look, that's better than what they put forth together in this first half. So you're telling me if we hit a little bit better, things might go in the Cubs' direction. Well, they need to, because in the second half of 2023, Chicago Cubs as a team hit 264 with a 336 on base, 451 slug as a team for a 787 OPS. I mean, that's above average. That's what got them into that top half of the National League as a team offensively. That's what's going to have to happen. I've been talking about it for weeks. Look, the bullpen, it is what it is, and I'm going to give that grade out in just a little bit. But you have to understand that the Chicago Cubs, the position that they're in right now, they're not going to go out and break the bank for some dynamite closer. I don't see it happening right now. They're going to have to deal with what they have and just run it out there. And Craig Counsell is going to have to push the right buttons to find the right players to hopefully make it happen. They have 19 blown saves in the first half. They can't let that happen in the second half. And some of that's just going to have to come from better in-house performance. There's no way around that. But the Chicago Cubs can get back in this race with their offense. And we've started to see it from some of these players. I went through a bunch of different numbers here. There are 87 players right now in Major League Baseball that have exit velocities over 90 miles an hour. And according to StatCast, the Chicago Cubs only have 3 of them. Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, and just barely Dansby Swanson. Michael Busch isn't that far behind at 89 miles an hour exit velocity. But look, some of these guys, even Nico Horner's line drive rate, his exit velocity is down. It's got to change. It's got to move up. I'm not saying that the Chicago Cubs need to hit 264 as a team or slug 451 as a team in the second half. But if you're hitting 235 right now, can you get me a 250 batting average? Can you bump up the OBP just a little bit? Can you give me a slugging percentage in the 400? If you do, I think these Chicago Cubs can get back into this race. Let's take a look at the first half here. I'm just going to go down in no particular order and hand out some grades here. I want to start with Chris Morel. Chris Morel, heading into the second half, his slash line, 202 batting average, 303 on base, 387 slugging. That's a 690. His OPS plus is 93. So for those that are wondering, OPS plus is more or less the combination of batting average, on-base percentage, and slugging percentage. And if you're saying, is 93 good? Well, about 100 is the average Major League Baseball player. If you get up to the 110, 115, 120, you're an above-average player. When you get to the 120, the 130, you're an all-star. For reference, Shohei Ohtani's OPS plus right now is 189. Okay? So if you're under 100, it's not good. Chris Morel is at 93. He only has 7 doubles all season long. He has more double plays that he's grounded into than doubles that he's hit. He's leading the team with 11 grounded into double plays. Granted, he's got 18 home runs. He's got 50 RBIs, but he's a minus WAR player right now at minus 0.1 and a fielding percentage that is only at 94%. 94% simply isn't going to cut it. When you go to Wrigley Field and you take a look at the statues up there with Ryan Sandberg winning Gold Gloves, that dude had his fielding percentage in 98, 99% every single season. Chris Morel at 94. You got to at least give me 96, man. You got to give me at least 96. It's been a tough season for Chris Morel. I'm going to give him a C- for the first half. I don't want to give him a D because he did drive in some runs, 18 home runs. A lot of them came early on. He's a young player, and there are some advanced statistics that show that he's trying. For example, his walk rate is up. Hooray. His strikeout rate is down. Hooray. Good for you. Seeing more pitches, getting a better understanding of the strike zone. It's all an important piece of an evolving player, and he's still a very young player in Major League Baseball. The only problem is this new approach has completely zapped what made Chris Morel interesting in the first place. If you take a look, his ground ball rate is up, his line drive rate is down, his hard hit rate is down this season from what it was last year. And there's a couple factors here. One, I kind of put this on Craig Counsell. I've said this before. Chris Morel was doing a ton of damage last year, hitting number 8 and hitting number 9 in the lineup. He was getting on base or he was clearing the bases, one of the two, and he was doing it to roll over the lineup. And it was fun to have his energy on the base pass or him giving us some thump from the bottom of the lineup. I think Craig Counsell putting him in the cleanup spot was a mistake. I feel like that he was overwhelmed too early. I feel like he was trying to be too cute. He did a pretty decent job of driving in runs, but it took away all of his aggressiveness and what makes Chris Morel special. They've moved him down into the lineup a little bit. I think I would probably keep him probably in that 6-7 range, which they've had him at times, flip-flopping with Ian Happ. I would keep him there. Let Chris Morel be Chris Morel, for crying out loud. I mean, if the dude's going to hit 200, at least let the guy slug. we got to pick a lane here with him a little bit. And I feel like that's been Chris Morel's problem, is that he's been in between. I can imagine also playing third base every day. Some of that scrutiny, some of the errors early on in the season have been a problem. So I think that's probably weighed on him a little bit offensively. But come on, we got to figure out a way to let this kid cook a little bit. And I just don't think it's from the middle of the lineup. I know that you want the power numbers from him and you want that in the middle line. It's just not going to happen. You got to move him down a C- for the first half, and hopefully he can turn around. Dude, give me more than 7 doubles, please. I'm begging you on this. Moving on. Miguel Amaya. Oh, man. What do you want me to do, guys? What do you want me to do? I'm giving him a D+, okay? Now, look, the only reason why I'm not giving him an F is because I'm a former catcher, and I think at times he has done a really nice job of managing this staff. When you want to talk about a starting rotation that is pitched incredibly well for long stretches, if you want to talk about Shota Imanaga as an all-star, you want to talk about the possible resurgence of Kyle Hendricks, if you want to talk about Justin Steele, Javier Assad's strong first half, Jamison Tyon's bounce back, you got to put some of that also with Miguel Amaya for handling that staff. That being said, dude gets a D+. Can't throw runners out. Other problem. Hasn't been great blocking pitches behind the plate. Been calling a good game, not blocking pitches, leading to some extra bases, has led to probably that defensive slip up in the first half. I mean, hide your kids on this one. Slash line, 201. 266 on base percentage. 288 slugging percentage. For a 554 OPS, a 56 OPS plus. Now, that is half of what an average major league player is. So it just hasn't been good, guys. And this is all coming with him, honestly, tacking a couple hits on over the last week. He's had a pretty decent last 7 days to bring him back over 201. But in 205 plate appearances, only 9 extra base hits. Since May 1st, he only has 9 RBIs. His OPS at home has been atrocious, only 487. That's an OPS. That's OBP, on-base percentages plus slugging is only 487. And with 2 strikes, he is basically an automatic out at 092. I don't know what to do, guys. You can't play Thomas Nido every single day. He just isn't built for that. And I understand this is one of the things that when we talked about in the offseason, Craig Counsell is going to play the kids and bring them along. This is a part of it. You know, these are the growing pains. And I can understand you want to keep running Miguel Amaya out there, but I just don't see any glimmers or signs of it turning around. These last 7 days have been positive for Miguel Amaya. He's picked up a couple of hits here and there, a couple of multi-hit games. Does he take a step back, head into the second half, and continue to improve? I would love to see it, but guys, just give me a 220 batting average from the catching position. Please, I'm begging you. Run into one every once in a while. I mean, these are putrid numbers, and he certainly deserves his D+ grade. I don't know what exactly the answer is. I get it. Danny Jensen has been rumored about with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's going to be a free agent at the year. Elias Diaz, another guy who can hit at the catching position, going to be a free agent at the end of the year. How much are you willing to spend at the catching position for a moderate upgrade that you're not guaranteed to keep through the next year? It's a tough situation for the Chicago Cubs. And when you're talking about lineup construction, when you run him out there and PCA out there at the same time, you know, you're basically those are two outs, almost automatic right now in this lineup. And the 6 through 9 for the Cubs right now is putrid. All these guys are sitting around 200. Miguel Amaya, unfortunately, has been a big. Do I even want to say contributor to that? That doesn't even make any sense. Contributor. No, Miguel Amaya, tough first half, man. I hope you turn it around. There's nowhere to go but up for you, Miguel Amaya. Let's get back on the good side of things. I want to talk about a player that I think has surprised a lot of people. And to be honest with you, has surprised me. Pleasantly surprised me, not shocked me. Michael Busch. I'm giving Michael Busch a B+ for the first half. He's leading rookies in a lot of different categories. His slash line has been impressive. 271, 357, 466 for an 823 OPS as a rookie in a league right now that the average the average baseball batting average right now is in the low 240s to hit 271. I think it's impressive. 12 home runs, 19 doubles, 36 RBIs. A lot of strikeouts right now, 104 strikeouts. He's probably cruising towards that 160, 180 mark. Not great, but again, that 357 on base percentage really helps out. When we're talking about OPS plus, Michael Busch, 129, leads the team. That's borderline all-star, folks. I get it. There's a lot of people out there saying that he probably got snubbed a little bit. You know, my grander thoughts about Michael Busch is that I like his numbers right now. I like him as a player. I don't know if he projects well at first base. He certainly doesn't project well at first base with a team that lacks slug like the Cubs right now. But again, 129 OPS plus. Good for you, Michael Busch. Keep up the good work. And you've been hitting the ball really hard. I hope you continue to keep up the pace in the second half because, man, we're going to need you. And good for Craig Counsell finally keeping you in that second spot. And good for Craig Counsell also for playing you against lefties every once in a while. He's got a wins above replacement right now of 2.4. That's an excellent number. Dude's only making $741,000. You know, I'm going to do plenty of criticism of the bullpen and Jed Hoyer coming up later. But right now, this move looks to be a fantastic move. You know, for the last 7 weeks, Michael Busch is hitting 309. So he gets a B+. I'm not giving him an A because, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know if he projects long-term as a first baseman. You know, he played 119 games in the minor leagues as a second baseman. Probably a hot take for a different day, but I think it would be ideal if Michael Busch was your future second baseman. Maybe Nico Hoerner moves to third, and you go out and you get that Pete Alonso. You go out and you get that Christian Walker. You go out and trade for that Vlad Guerrero Jr. Because those numbers, when Michael Busch puts up from the second base position, those are elite numbers. Now we're talking all-star. Now we're talking possibly starting second baseman for the National League with those type of numbers. At first base, it just doesn't really play because it's a power position. But good for you, Michael Busch. Keep up the good work, man. If we're going to make the playoffs, it is going to come from people like Michael Busch. I give him a B+ for the first half. Let's keep it rolling here. Nico Hoerner. This one I really struggled with because I like Nico Hoerner as a player, and I'm giving him a C+. I struggle to give him a B- because, look, the numbers aren't great. He's hitting 256, 336 on base percentage, 348 slugging with a 684 OPS. His OPS plus is only at 93. That is slightly below average. That's a Christopher Morel zone. I kind of put some of this on Craig Counsell, to be honest with you. I get it. Nico Hoerner missed some time. Came back. When he came back from his injury, he was cold. He was ice cold, struggled to get some hits, and now he's finally putting it together. But from my seat, I think the Chicago Cubs and Craig Counsell did him a huge disservice, putting him at the bottom of the lineup to start the season. This dude, when he was your leadoff hitter, he was getting on base and he was stealing bases. He had 21 stolen bases at this time last year. He's got 14 now. That's only because of the last 3 weeks they finally gave him the green light to start stealing bases. I get it. Craig Counsell doesn't like that action on the base pass. He doesn't like bunting. But guess what? On a team that doesn't slug, you got to do that stuff. They are first in the National League in base running, moving from first to third. That's a cool stat. But you got to swipe a bag. You got to go first to third. And with this team, to be honest with you, you got to bunt a little bit. So Nico Hoerner, I think this guy is a huge X factor heading into the second half. If you give me Nico Hoerner of last season in the second half of this year, I think the Chicago Cubs got a great shot at getting back into this thing. Hitting the 280s last year, was stealing bases, spark plug at the top of the lineup. I mean, I think that's where he needs to go. That's where he needs to stay. Hitting him 6th and 7th and 8th made no sense. Driving in runs. You just want him to be a slap hitter, trying to hit the ball hard, hit the ball on a line drive, and make it happen. Putting him down at the bottom of the lineup. It was almost as if like Craig Counsell came in and did that thing where I need to purposefully make things different to show that I am different. And that was one of those moves. David Ross had him up at the top of the lineup. Craig Counsell was like, I'm going to push him to the bottom. It was a mistake. Hopefully he learned from it. Seems like he did. He's at the top of the lineup. That's where he should stay. Moving on. Cody Bellinger, C-. Now look, C- for the following reasons that I'll get to in a second, because I want to say nice things about Cody Bellinger first. I think he's an incredibly intelligent, solid, professional baseball player. I love the fact that with 2 strikes, he shortens his swing and tries to hit the ball to left field. I love that when runners on scoring position, he's trying to drive in the run, not hit the ball 485 feet. He is not the guy that tries to hit the 10-run home run when the 2-run single will do. His numbers in the crunch have been incredibly solid. So why am I giving him a C minus? Part of this has to do with the money, right? This was supposed to be the final piece of the puzzle. General manager Jed Hoyer waited him out, finally got the deal done, under the Cubs' terms. It was under $100 million. Cody Bellinger, isn't this guy supposed to be the straw that stirs the drink of this team? And the problem is now he's hurt again. He's been hurt twice this season. Slash line 269, 331 on base percentage, 410. Slugging percentage pretty good, 742. 107 OPS above average, but only 9 home runs. 37 RBIs. I mean, he's going to be lucky if he gets into the 70s with RBIs. He's got 15 doubles, which is pretty solid. Now, look, the injuries that he's had, the fractured rib, you can't do anything about it. Getting hit by a pitch and breaking your finger, you can't do anything about it. But when he does come back, this dude needs to be the power slug monster that we're paying him $30 million for. There's no two ways about it. He's supposed to be that left-handed power slugging guy that is supposed to give us an element to this Cubs lineup that is sorely lacking, that we haven't had all season long. And it's one way or the other. And I can't just go out there and give Cody Bellinger a better grade because he's great on defense, he's great in the clubhouse, and I think he's an intelligent baseball player. I mean, this is the results-based industry that we're in here, and he's just not producing. And that's been a problem. And I feel bad for him. He's been hurt twice. I feel even more bad that if he continues to play the way that he has been offensively when he comes back, hopefully healthy, that he's going to opt into his contract for $30 million, and we're going to be paying $30 million a year to a guy that hits about 15 home runs a year. It's a problem for me, and that's why I have to give Cody Bellinger a C minus. Seiya Suzuki, moving on here. I'm giving him a B. I'm giving him just a B, a solid B. If we were in the numbers game, I'd probably give him right down the middle an 85. Slash line, great. 270, 339 on base percentage, 470 slugging, by far leading the team. 830, 813 OPS, 126 OPS plus. That is second on the team. He's got 3 triples, 13 home runs, 14 doubles, 45 RBIs, drove in a bunch of RBIs over the week leading up to the All-Star break, and has a 1.8 wins above replacement. Slugging .545 in the month of June and July, hitting .321 in the month of July. We saw it a little bit last year in the second half. Is the best yet to come from Seiya Suzuki. So why am I not giving him a higher grade? Well, it's pretty simple. One, he's been absolutely terrible in right field. We have to do an investigation overseas and how this guy ended up with Golden Gloves over there, because there's something going on with him. He can't catch a fly ball. And for God's sakes, man, just use 2 hands. If you're not feeling good about it, just use 2 hands. It's not bad. He's got this weird thing where he doesn't catch it right over his nose either, which is what they teach you. He catches it what looks like over his left eye and then swipes it. It doesn't make any sense. He's been awful out there in right field. His K rate has been up. If you spend a little time on Cubs Twitter, I think a lot of Cubs fans get a little frustrated when he takes that first pitch straight down the pipe for strike one. I think we'd like to see him be a little bit more aggressive. And the same thing with Cody Bellinger. I mean, these are 2 guys that are supposed to carry you offensively from the slugging position. Seiya's been doing his part, but Cody Bellinger hasn't. But again, both of these guys, they're not 30-plus home run guys. What are we really expecting out of them? I'm going to give Seiya a B because I think his ceiling can be higher. I think his production can increase, and I'm hoping that the best is still yet to come from Seiya Suzuki. And he is another guy, just like Michael Busch. Those 2 guys I think are the most important guys in the lineup, because Ian Happ, who we'll get to in a second, I think he's just solid as a rock. But if Seiya and Michael Busch can keep going in the trajectory that they're going, the Cubs can get back into this race. Ladies and gentlemen, Dansby Swanson. Very fun. So close to an F, Dansby. So close, man. I'm giving you a D-. Dansby Swanson, D- for his first half. $177 million for this, huh? Look, the defense has taken a step back this year, and the offense has absolutely been putrid. Much like Miguel Amaya, can it really get worse? And you got to ask yourself, is there any other direction to go but up? I'm going to read the numbers and just buckle up. because these are career worsts for Dansby Swanson. Batting average 212, 282 on base percentage. That's awful. That's Javi Baez like. 350 slug, 632 OPS with an OPS plus of 76, well below league average. He's got 91 strikeouts to only 28 walks, 9 home runs, picked up a couple in the last couple of weeks. Good for him. 13 doubles, 31 RBIs. So here we go. On the plus side, his BABIP is the lowest of his career. That's balls put into play. That's basically a luck factor, a luck metric that we try and gauge of where is the ball being placed when he hits it, and typically on average are those being dropped for base hits, or is it something that should typically be caught? His BABIP is the lowest of his career, so he's been a little unlucky. His strikeout rate, though, the highest percentage of his career. His walk rate, the third lowest of his career. His pull percentage, highest of his career. Line drive percentage, lowest of his career. Ground ball percentage, highest of his career. Batted on balls, on fastballs, worst since the first 2 years in the league. And that's about it. That's where you get the D-, folks. So what you're trying to say is that he's having trouble catching up on fastballs, which used to be his bread and butter. He's pulling the ball at an alarming rate, which over the last 7 days, it was nice to see him go oppo a couple of times. He's not using the whole field. Means he's not centering up the baseball when he's getting the pitch to hit. His line drive percentage is low, and his swing mechanics are off because he's got a high ground ball rate. It's not even so much about can he turn it around. It's so much about it will probably get a little bit better from here, but what does that even look like? And is it enough to really move the needle? When you say turn it around, are we turning it only maybe a 10 degrees over? You're not getting probably a full 90 degree or 180 turn from him to another side part of the season. But this is another guy. He just simply has to play better. There's no two ways about it. The numbers speak for themselves, so I'm not going to keep going on and beating, Dansby Swanson into the ground here. But the D-, he deserves he deserves that grade to this point, especially the money that you give him. I thought originally that, look, he wasn't going to be a great offensive player, but he was going to be the dude that at least had that veteran moxie, that when there was runners or ducks in the pond with 2 outs, runners in scoring position, that Dansby Swanson would just, no matter what was going on, slump, no slump, he would figure out a way to drive in runs. That little intangible quality about it, all the intangibles that he would bring to the team. Well, unfortunately, the tangibles have gone missing, and the tangibles on the field have been absolutely awful, and that's why he gets the grade that he gets. 2 more before we move over to the pitching. Ian Happ, B+, 243, 352 on base, 458, slugging 810, OPS, 126 OPS plus, tied for second best on the team. This has really come over the last month or so. He's got 33 RBIs over his last 39 games for a team-leading 57 RBIs. He leads the team with 23 doubles, leads the team with 53 runs scored. He's got 15 home runs. And the advanced metrics have shown that Ian Happ is just basically having very much an Ian Happ season. He's doing a little bit better on fastballs than he has in previous years, but this is just who you're getting with Ian Happ. And good for him. There's a baseline to this guy, right? He's going to hit 240 to 260. He's going to hit anywhere between 20 to 28 home runs. And as we've seen the last couple seasons, hopefully drive you in 80 to 90 runs a game. So I'm giving Ian Happ a B+. Good for him for turning around his season. We're definitely going to need him in that 3, 4, 5 spot. Until Cody Bellinger gets back, he is basically the only real, true left-handed thump that we have in the lineup. I get it. Michael Busch gives you a little pop, but not quite the pop that you need on a day-to-day basis like a Cody Bellinger should or an Ian Happ is at this particular time. Just Ian, man, keep cruising, dude. We need you so badly right now. We're going up and down through this lineup, and I'm talking about the guys that need to turn it up to make it happen. Ian Happ, you just need to keep doing what you're doing for the Chicago Cubs to have a chance to possibly play in the postseason when the season's over. Pete Crow Armstrong, D+. I can't really give this guy a pass, right? He's an exciting player, right? He's incredibly fast. He's a wonderful defensive player. Have you heard that before? Cough, cough, Albert Almora. His OPS is at 582. He struck out 45 times to only 8 walks. His K rate is very high. It's 25.9%. His hard hit rate is 28%. That is incredibly low. And his line drive percentage right now is 18.6. He just isn't squaring up the baseball. When he's on the base paths, though, the Cubs are kind of at their best. So I get the tantalizing potential of continuously running him out there. But in my opinion, when Michael Tauchman gets healthy, when Cody Bellinger comes back, I just don't see Pete Crow Armstrong helping this team this season right now, making a playoff push. He certainly needs more seasoning in the minor leagues. There's something about that swing that I just don't like. And pitch recognition also hasn't been great. I love the energy. I think it's awesome. As a fourth, fifth outfielder coming off the bench, right now he can be a useful player, but we're just playing him way too much out of necessity. And hopefully that changes in the second half. So I have to give Pete Crow Armstrong a D+. Very young player, but I got to grade him how I see him on this one. He just hasn't played very well offensively. And just adding to the mix of a Miguel Amaya, Dansby Swanson, these guys that we're talking about, even Christopher Morel at 202. I mean, these numbers are brutal, and we're hitting these guys one right after another in the second half of the lineup. Got to switch it up. Got to get more contact out there. Might not be Pete Crow Armstrong later on in the second half.